Welcome to day 207 of 66 in 26, our journey to read through all 66 books of the Bible in 2026. We're back in the book of Ezekiel today. Last week, this week, and next week, we are in the last 9 chapters of Ezekiel. This is the last section of the prophet where we see a description of the idealized temple, which is the pattern which was used for the building of the first temple under Solomon, which will be the pattern for the second temple, which will be rebuilt after the people of Judah, the Israelites, come back out of exile to Babylon, and a remnant returns to rebuild Jerusalem, rebuild the temple. And this idealized temple, which is described in Ezekiel 40 to 48, is the pattern for those temples. What we see today in our reading is the high point in this last section of Ezekiel, especially chapter 43. Ezekiel describes the return of the glory of the Lord to the temple. This is the same glory that Ezekiel saw in the very first chapter of Ezekiel when God called Ezekiel to be his prophet, and which we saw again in Ezekiel chapter 11 when the Lord and the glory of the Lord came to destroy Jerusalem through the Babylonians, and that glory of the Lord left through the east gate of Jerusalem and departed toward the east, where the people were taken off into exile to the east and north to Babylon. And that same glory returns through the same gate, the east gate, to return to the temple of the Lord, which Ezekiel envisions here in these last chapters. And so we see the glory of God coming to be with his people. And this is despite their sinfulness, despite their unfaithfulness, despite their idolatry. The Lord God comes again to the temple to dwell with his people. And we hear then the remaining chapters that we have today, chapters 44 and 45, a call on God to the people of Israel, the priests, the Levites, and the people in general to rededicate themselves. The priests rededicate themselves. They offer the sacrifices that will purify the temple. And then the division of the land that's given to the Levites, the priests of the Old Testament, given a district for the temple and their dwelling, which will be the rededication of that priesthood for the people, no longer following the false gods, no longer the high places, but rededicating themselves. And then the offerings for the holy days, the religious feasts that they had. There were 6 feasts, and some of them are described here in Ezekiel chapter 45 as a renewal of that practice, the ritual of coming to the Lord several times a year to bring the sacrifices which will cleanse the people. All of this points to, of course, the true temple, the true sacrifice, and that is Jesus, who purifies us all, and we no longer have to have any sacrifices, which is really great news for us. And all these chapters of Ezekiel, as he's envisioning the temple, the sacrifices, the rededication of the priests, all point us to our high priest Jesus, the sacrifice Jesus, the temple Jesus, all together in one. So we do not need another temple. We do not need another sacrifice. We do not need another high priest, because Jesus is all of those things for us.